Okay, so ready to dive into some really cool jobs.
I'm ready.
Today we're tackling Aquaculture Cage Mooring Worker.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's a big one, right?
Yeah,
People are really interested in this, and we're going to help get you ready for those interview questions.
love it.
So you're prepped and ready about to go into that interview and really impress those potential employers.
It's really about showing them you can handle it all. Safety's important. You're a team player. You can handle those challenges being out on the open water.
You got it. So let's break down some of those questions RoleCatcher flagged as really important for this role.
Sounds good.
So first up, can you describe your experience working with aquaculture cages? That seems like a pretty basic question, right?
Yeah, it does seem like an easy one, but this is really your time to shine. This is where you can showcase all that hands-on experience you have. Don't just list off where you worked. Really paint a picture. What type of cages did you work with? Were they stationary? Were they submersibles? Maybe you've even worked with those, high-tech automated ones. What equipment were you using? What kind of challenges did you face out there?
Okay, so don't be afraid to really get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly.
Show them you've actually been out there,
Yes.
done the work.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. This is a big one. How do you ensure the safety of yourself and others while working on aquaculture cages?
Yeah.
What are they really looking for with that?
Safety, of course, is so important in this line of work, and employers really need to know that you take it seriously. And not just for yourself, but for everyone you're working with. And this is where you get specific. So talk about the equipment, the personal protective equipment that you're using. And not just mentioning it, but how are you using it? And how is that keeping everyone safe? You can even get into risk assessments.
Yeah.
What does a good, thorough risk assessment look like on an aquaculture farm? What are the things you're considering? How are you communicating those potential hazards to the rest of your team?
That's a good point. I mean, you're out there on the open water. There's a lot that could happen that you need to be prepared for.
Exactly.
I'm curious, how does RoleCatcher's AI help tailor responses for, specific roles?
Oh, it's so helpful. So let's say you're interviewing with a smaller family-run operation. RoleCatcher can help you adjust those answers to really emphasize how you're adaptable. You can wear multiple hats. But on the other hand, if you're interviewing with a huge company, the AI can help you highlight those experiences that you've had working with more complicated equipment or large-scale operations.
Oh, that's so cool. So it really is like a personal coach in your pocket.
Exactly.
Okay, back to those questions. This one seems pretty straightforward. How do you maintain and repair aquaculture cage mooring equipment? So yes, this is where you really get to show off your toolbox knowledge.
Yes, this is where you get to show off all that practical knowledge. And again, don't just say you're handy. Use those terms. What kind of winches are you familiar with? How do you inspect and maintain the ropes and the chains? What about checking those anchors? Have you ever had to fix something quickly? This is where you can share a story about how you had to think fast and handle the pressure.
It's all about those real-world examples. Okay, so this next question. Can you describe your experience working in a team environment? That feels like a pretty standard question for any job.
It is.
But how do you really tailor that to this type of role?
Yeah, you've got to go beyond just the generic teamwork answers and really paint a picture about what it looks like in aquaculture. So talk about the unique challenges of working on the water. Maybe there was a time you had to work together to secure a cage during a storm or coordinate a big harvest, and really highlight these moments when good communication was super important.
Okay, so show them you understand what it takes to work as a team in this specific environment. Now, this next one seems a little less obvious. How do you prioritize and manage your workload? How does that even apply when you're working on an aquaculture farm?
It's a great question. Aquaculture involves a lot of juggling. You've got multiple things going on. Conditions are unpredictable. So think about your average day. You might be inspecting cages. You're maintaining that mooring system. Maybe you're helping with feeding or harvesting. And all the while, you're keeping an eye on the weather and the water. So you really have to be good at planning your work and knowing that things can change quickly. Maybe a storm is rolling in and you need to secure those cages ahead of schedule, or there's an issue with the fish and you need to address it right away. Employers want to see that you can think on your feet and handle those unexpected situations.
It's a lot of thinking ahead and being proactive.
Definitely.
Okay, so this next question. Can you describe a time when you encountered a problem in your work and how you resolved it? I feel like anyone who's worked in aquaculture has probably got a story or two about that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everyone's got those stories. So this is a chance to really showcase your problem-solving skills. Think of a time when you had to stay calm under pressure, think critically, and find a solution. Maybe you found a rip in a cage net and you had to think fast to keep those fish from escaping.
Oh, man, that's a good one.
Or you had to adapt your whole mooring system because of crazy currents or bad weather.
Yeah, you got to be ready for anything.
Exactly.
Okay, this next question is interesting. How do you ensure the quality of your work in your role as an aquaculture cage mooring worker? So this feels like it goes beyond just doing the bare minimum, right?
Absolutely. This question is about your work ethic, your attention to detail. Are you committed to doing things right? So talk about how you're paying attention to every little thing. Like when you're inspecting those mooring lines, are you really looking for wear and tear? Are you making sure those nets are clear? And mention that you understand the industry standards. Why are those procedures in place, and how do you make sure you're meeting those standards every time?
So it's about making that connection for them, showing them that you understand that the quality of your work really impacts everything.
Yeah. It impacts the health of the fish, it impacts the farm's success, and in the end, it impacts how sustainable the entire operation is.
And speaking of sustainability, that's something that RoleCatcher's Career Guide highlights as being super important in this industry right now. Employers are looking for people who are passionate about those environmentally responsible practices and who understand how their work plays into that bigger picture.
Definitely.
I'm curious, how can someone prepare to really speak to that in an interview, especially if they're just starting out in the field?
That's where RoleCatcher can be really helpful, actually. The AI can look at your answers and suggest ways to include keywords or phrases that are related to sustainability. So, for example, you might mention that you're interested in minimizing the environmental impact or that you're knowledgeable about eco-friendly mooring systems.
Okay, so even if you're new, you can still show them that you get it, that you're on board with that commitment to sustainability.
Exactly.
All right, back to the interview questions. This next one's all about staying ahead of the game. How do you stay up to date on industry developments and emerging technologies? Is aquaculture really that high tech? Do you really have to stay on top of the latest and greatest?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing how much technology is used in aquaculture. The industry is always changing. There's always something new. So you want to show them that you're curious, you're engaged, you like to learn new things. Are there industry publications that you follow? Are you part of any online forums or communities? Maybe you listen to podcasts.
Like this one?
Exactly. Have you been to any webinars or conferences?
Yeah.
And share something specific. Tell them about something new you learned about, maybe in cage design or new sustainable feed options.
So it's about showing them you're not just content with the status quo. You want to learn and grow. All right, and then the final question that RoleCatcher flags in their guide is all about communication. How do you communicate with clients or stakeholders in your role as an aquaculture cage mooring worker? So why is communication so important in this role? It's not like you're giving big presentations, is it?
Not usually, but even though you might not be presenting to a room full of investors, communication is still so key. Think about who you might need to talk to. It could be your supervisor, your colleagues in other departments, even local fishermen or people in the community.
So it's about tailoring your communication to different audiences.
Yeah, exactly. Think of a time when you had to explain something technical in a way that anyone could understand. Or maybe you had to navigate a disagreement with a coworker about the best way to get something done. Those are great examples to share.
This has been super insightful. But acing the interview, that's just the first step, right? What are some things that people can do once they land the job to really stand out and build a successful career in aquaculture?
One thing that RoleCatcher emphasizes is building a strong portfolio.
A portfolio? I thought those were for artists and designers.
You might think so, but it can be so valuable even in a hands-on field like this. It's about documenting your work, showing off your skills and accomplishments. Think about any challenging projects you've worked on. Did you help install a new kind of mooring system? Were you part of a really successful harvest?
So it's about having something tangible that shows what you can do.
Exactly. You could include pictures, videos, diagrams, even sketches. And don't forget about testimonials. A few great reviews from supervisors or clients, those can go a long way.
That is such good advice. Okay, we've talked a lot about, the technical skills, but what about the personal qualities that make someone a good fit for this line of work? What does it take to thrive as an aquaculture cage mooring worker?
It really is. You've got to have those skills, but you also need those other qualities that make you someone people want on their team.
Okay, so it's not just about what you know, but who you are.
Right. And this actually ties into something else that RoleCatcher mentions.
Okay, what's that?
They talk about how this job requires a certain level of grit and resilience. You have to really love the ocean because you're out there in those elements,
It's
right?
not for everyone, that's for sure.
Definitely not. You're working outdoors, often in tough weather. You need to be someone who likes physical work, isn't afraid to get their hands dirty, and can handle those unexpected things that pop up when you're working in nature.
Sounds like a really unique job with a lot of rewards, but also a lot of demands.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been incredible. Such a fascinating look at the world of aquaculture cage mooring workers. We talked about the interview questions, what the day-to-day work is really like. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are thinking about diving into this career path?
If you're passionate about it, go for it. It's a growing field and it's only going to get bigger. And it's such a cool opportunity to take your love for the ocean and turn it into a career. Don't be afraid to network, talk to people who are already doing this work. They can offer amazing insights, and never stop learning. This industry is constantly evolving, so stay curious and always be ready for those new challenges.
I love that. So to sum it all up, do your research, use RoleCatcher to really hone those interview skills, and most importantly, bring that passion. You might just find yourself riding a wave of success in the world of aquaculture.
That's a deep dive worth taking.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.